Hello, everyone. Welcome to Adobe Live. I went to go say happy holiday season and then I completely lost my train of thought. It's one of those days. How is everybody? I see we have Jack in the chat. Robert. Hi, Cody. Hi, Umacorn. How are you guys doing? What's new? What's going on? What's happening? How was your Thanksgiving if you celebrate? Um, Mine was actually quite nice, despite the fact that we had a crazy golden doodle around the house. I love the dog. She's just a year and a half old, a lot of energy. Um, I am, if you don't know who I am Shauna Lynn. I'm a lettering artist and children's book illustrator based in the Chicago area where we currently have snow and it's very cold. Um, I thought today might be kind of fun to do holiday gift bags, holiday gift bag illustration. We've got about an hour, so I would like to show you just kind of the step-by-step from sketch to the coloring phase to mocking it up using Adobe Stock. I already have one mocked up, so I can show you that shortly. And then I have like a little quickie presentation to show. Hi, Oliver. How are you? Hello, Alejandro. But since we are, tight for time, I figured let's get started. So when, with the holiday season, going to stores right now, you're going to see gift bags everywhere. I love looking at all the different gift bag designs and stuff out there. There's a lot of illustrated ones. There's a lot of there's illustration, there's photo, there's painting. I mean, there's just all kinds. And it's one of those where there is something for everybody. And it's one of those things where you may not think your work might look good on a gift bag, but if you mock it up, you might be surprised. So just a couple examples that are out there in terms of different styles. And you've got painting, you've got repeat patterns, you've got text. Everything is just, it's very open-ended. There's a lot of different directions you can run with this. I have a couple that I mocked up of my own work. So because I just wanted to see what it looks like. And there are times that I'm like, this illustration isn't great. And then I mock it up and I'm like, this actually does not look as bad as I thought. And I think to some degree, mocking it up can take that personal element out of it so that you see it more in kind of in the environment and in use versus like just looking at it on your screen. So I just decided to mock up a couple of them just to see how they'd look because I thought it might be kind of fun. So I've given myself a brief. You're more than welcome to work alongside. I think it'd be fun to see what you make if you join in with me. But we're going to do a holiday gift bag. My theme is floral. I was going to set the age range to much lower, but then I was just like, you know what? We're going to go all ages. Size is 9 by 12. I already have a bag that I've pulled off Adobe Stock for mocking it up. So I already know what size I need the image to be. And in this case, it's going to be 9 by 12, well, 12 by 9. It's horizontal. And then the deliverables that I want to do are the front side and a mock-up. The mock-up I pulled does not really have a side, so we may not get to the side, but we will get to the front. So we're going to move over into Photoshop. So this is the mock-up I have to work with. And this one I pulled together quickly. If I turn off all this, that's the mock-up I pulled from Adobe Stock and I licensed. I searched on Adobe Stock, I searched blank shopping bag, and that brought up a lot of different options. There's different ones in like the craft paper and such. And I have I have a couple in my library here that I pulled just as ideas. So like I don't know why this is so wide. 1 second. There we go. So if I were to do the front side and use the front and side, I could use one like this. I could also use this one. But in this instance, we're going to use this white one because I think that will be the easiest for the time that we're given. And what I've done is created smart objects. So when the time comes, I'll show you quickly kind of how I did that so you can see how to make your own. So we have sketches. These I did very quickly. Like I said, limited amount of time. So I want to make sure that we have enough time to do everything. I see people popping in chat still. Hi, Leah. How are you? How you doing? Hi, Oliver. Hi, Robert. Hi, Anthony. Hello, everyone. Cody says, so true. And that was in regards to like mocking up your work. And because it really does take that personal element out of it in that you can look at it more objectively. That was the phrase I was looking for. It's one of those weeks I am on a client deadline this week. So my brain is going like every which way. But so I had a couple really quick sketches I did as ideas. So one was this little A-frame cabin. Another was this floral Mary. And then another was Santa popping out of a chimney. Realized that for character work, I just don't have enough time for that today, as much as I would love to do more character work. So I went in and I at least have a very rough design going here, and I sketched it out. So we have this to work with. So we are now 5 minutes in. Who has questions? If I start going too fast, do let me know. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm, more than glad to break things down more. I just want to make sure that there's enough time to get through everything. So what I'm going to do to start is I kind of, for this color palette, I don't want to necessarily use the traditional red and green. If you look at like vintage Christmas elements, vintage holiday elements, a lot of the like, what is that? Shiny bright packaging for those old Christmas bulbs, Christmas ornament bulbs. A lot of times you'll see a lot of pink used, like pinks and yellows. There's definitely, there's still green, but there's more of like a vintage palette that you'll see, especially with things from like the 50s. So I thought that might kind of be fun to go a little bit different and run with that, with more of a vintagey palette for this. So I'm using a solid color adjustment layer, and we are just filling it with pink. The specific one I'm using is the hex code FE93BC. And I may adjust this as I go, we'll see. But right now I kind of like it. I might want to go a little more coral, but we'll see how things, how it pans out as we keep going. So from here, I'm going to pull up my color picker. And I guess I don't have what I've done is I work in it. I have the beta for Photoshop, and I have a keystroke for the color picker so I can quickly pop it up. I assigned it the N key. Didn't realize that I didn't have it assigned in here, but when I'm working on stuff for my clients and things, assigning a key to your color picker makes things so easy, because then you can just pop it up and just grab your color and keep going. I'm not necessarily sure how much faster it makes my process. It just makes it much easier for me because it's ingrained into my keystroke hand. So Cody says, love your sketch, Shauna. Thank you. I am actually pretty happy with it. I'm working, so like I said, for this particular one, I'm working at, it's 12 by 9. And I figured that out when I was mocking this up. I created a shape around this, and when I opened the shape, I looked at the dimensions, and the dimensions themselves were about 12 by 9. But in here it was like 6 by 8 or something, so I made it larger so that I wasn't working on something too small. But the ratio is the same. But I'm working on 12 by 9, but I'm also working at 450 DPI, because I like to get, I like these really nice crunchy details. And as much as I love, I prefer to work slightly higher versus struggle, versus being, what am I trying to say? I like to work at a higher DPI because it's easier for me to make adjustments to the work if the client has to change something, because then what I'm working with is already high res. And so if I have to scale it a little bit, it's not going to lose the quality. Versus if I start at 300 and I have to make something a bit larger or adjust it, I generally might have to redraw it or redraw elements of it. But it also allows me to get in to the file and zoom in enough that I can get some really nice detail work done, because sometimes like my characters are really small, and that might make it a little difficult in order to do these details. However, you also, have to keep in mind that if they're like this big, you can't be super detailed. So there's give and take with it. Um, and with this color picker, I have it set so that the gamut warning is there. So anything that's grayed out doesn't print in CMYK. Excuse me. Anything grayed out does not print in CMYK. So if you pick a color up here, like you can see, it's this bright mint green. That will not print on a traditional CMYK printer. You would need a Pantone specific color to make that happen. But anything down outside of the gray will print. So, and you can see, like, if I adjust the color picker here, you can see how much that changes and what colors you have to work with. But that was a trick I saw that Zoe Persico does, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And so I did it too. I saw Regina George wearing camo pants and flip-flops, and so I wore army pants and flip-flops. Hi, Wendell. How are you? Yeah, now we're just going to get in and we're going to start drawing and getting things going. So one thing I'm using too is I'm using a brush that's got the color adjustment settings on it, the color dynamics. And this one I only have set to 1%, but the more you change that, the more variation you get in your color as you like quote unquote paint. I like it because it can give a little bit more of a painterly quality to the work you're doing. So it feels a little more like working with like a gouache paint or something. This particular one though, I did go in and I like this brush, I didn't adjust the saturation because that will take it into, it'll adjust it so there's more of a gray tone that pops in versus there being versus just the pure colors. Teddy Bear says color dynamics are so useful. Love it. Yes, they are so fun. I think that's a lot. I think color dynamics show up too in a lot of Carl Webster's brushes. So it makes it really fun to play with. You can kind of see like the variations of colors like as I'm painting this in, and because what it does is it'll change on every stroke I make. If I do multiple just single strokes, it'll change every time I place my pen down. Sometimes the default will do apply per tip, and if apply per tip is on, it ends up doing this weird thing where I have to see if you can see it here because it's a little difficult to see, but you can every stamp of that brush is a different color. So it ticks itself into different colors as you draw it, and it doesn't look as natural at all. So I always take off the apply per tip. I make sure that that's not set. I'm just rotating my canvas too so that I can easily change the direction I'm drawing. I've had people ask before where they're like, wait, I can even like working on paper and stuff, like I can rotate my paper while I draw. Yes, you can. No one is saying that you have to contort yourself into weird positions in order to make a certain line happen. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask. I am here for that. I'm happy to answer them. We have Right now, the holiday season's upon us. This is the perfect time to be making Christmas cards, holiday cards, what have you. I just finished my mom's Christmas card yesterday. Um, she last year we got her a bird feeder that had a camera on it, so she was able to like watch the birds all winter, which was fun. And she ended up having this one capture where it had snowed and this cardinal flew up, and he pops his face down into the snow to get the food out. And he, as he brings his head up, he's just covered in snow, and he kind of glances at the camera like, what just happened? And she loves that shot, and so she wanted me to illustrate that for her card. And I was like, I don't know if I can draw birds, well enough to make that happen. So I mean, I'll try. So originally it was wow, I cannot draw this leaf. Hang on. So originally it was just a border around the image, but the image is, it's from a grainy camera, so it didn't look as good as it probably could have. It was, a camera photograph versus a webcam photograph. So I ended up painting it yesterday. So next step is to get it sent off for printing sometime this weekend. But does anyone else, like, do you make your own cards for the holidays? I always say I'm going to for myself, and then I never do. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, and I generally I just run out of time. If I was doing this for a client, I would be keeping in mind like bleed and such. But since I'm just doing it for the purpose of a mock-up, I'm not worrying about having a bleed on here for printing. But if any companies want to license this, feel free to reach out. Cody says, I just get store-bought cards. Yeah, I feel like that's the way to do it. Honestly, it's as fun as it is to, make your own. Sometimes it's just a lot of pressure. I take smoothing up just for a moment, just so I can get a nice curve here. Do the same here. And we're going to set it back to normal. Oliver says, I keep wanting to make my own, and then I don't. And he says, I make mine, but out of scrapbook paper, like paper crafts. Oh, that's cool. That's a good way to do it. Robert says, I have done my own video birthday card. Oh, that's also an option. I think yesterday they had a segment where they showed how to make a birthday card in Illustrator. I had one year that I was trying to be really, really ambitious, and I made my own wrapping paper. I had a project that I had started, and I did this project back in, what did I do, 2014, if I remember right. So it's like almost 10 years. And I had put it out there. I did the 12 patterns of Christmas because I was like, I'm gonna make patterns. Let's have some fun. And so I did 12 patterns, and then I set them up on a repeat pattern so that I could print them out and make wrapping paper, which only worked for presents that were small because I was just using regular printer paper. But it was fun. And then fast forward several years, about, what was it, last year, I got an email from a tea company that happens to be local to me. I think they're located about an hour from where I live. And she had come across the project, and she was like, "Hey, I would really like to license these. I do a 12 Teas of Christmas package. And I wanted to see if it would be possible if I could license these for this this product I do." And I was like, "You absolutely can, but let me make sure I still have the files first, because if I don't, I have nothing to license to you." And somehow miraculously, I still had them. So I was able to license them to her, and I helped set them up on the files so that they were correct. And I did end up redrawing just like a couple here and there, because the style is nowhere near what I do now. But there were parts that I was like, these need to be fixed here, because this doesn't line up as well as I thought it did back then. Or if I drew it, but it was too small, so it wasn't the right size for what she needed. And then she did a mug with the designs on it as well, and actually paid additional for that. So I mean, she's a great client. She didn't just take them and just make it. She licensed it to use on on another product, and actually paid for it, which was cool. And then I guess it actually sold out. And so she reached out to me this last year, and she's like, "Hey, by the way, we haven't even finished Christmas time." So this was like December last year. She's like, "We haven't even finished Christmas time. We've already sold out. I want to have you do this again. We have a long timeline, but I want to see if you're available to do a custom set this year." So we did a whole custom set of illustrations, and we did them so they look like postage stamps. And I think it should be live now, actually. So I'll have to go see after the stream, because she was taking pre-orders, but there were no photos of it yet. But yeah, you never know like where some of the work you do may end up, and licensing's fun, because I granted her a year's usage of the 12 patterns, and so now that's that year is over, I can, another company could license them for their own use. But he says, by the time I think about doing it, it's usually too late. Yeah. That's me 90% of the time. I do holiday cards for a company called Postable. And they start doing their all call for Christmas cards in like August. And my brain is not in Christmas mode in August. Years ago, it used to be, because that was when we'd start Christmas music and choir. And then I worked for a clothing brand, and you started planning Christmas and holiday campaign in August. And then when I didn't necessarily have to do that anymore, my brain was like, no, can't do that this year. But so it's so hard for my brain to get into that mode when it's August. And I was like, I'm gonna make so many new cards this year, because I love making cards for Postable. I think I made 5. And that was it. And I was like, I wanted to make more. I'm sorry, guys. So I have to like get myself to do them now, so that they're already done for next year. I did see, though, that they repurposed one I already did, and they uploaded it a second time on their system under a different name, just to gear it towards a different audience, which I thought was pretty awesome and nice. 1 second. The heat on. It's freezing out. I'm talking, therefore my throat gets dry and hurts. Cody says, how do you typically go about licensing your work? Does licensing typically include royalties for something like that? So it depends. I've got one project that I did licensing that's been licensed to them for, when did I do that? Back in 2012, 2013. I don't know. It was like somewhere in the the early to mid, 20 teens. And it was one that I did for a company that I'd reached out to because I really wanted to do more licensing back then. And so they hired me to do a calendar. And so they paid me in advance up front. And then once the advance is earned out, then you make royalties on top of that, if that's in the contract. So in this case, I did have royalties in the contract once the advance earned out. And then what they do is if they wanted to keep using it, they'd renew it every year. At this point, it's like they renew it, and I get maybe, it's really sad, I get like 25 cents a quarter right now for this one. I sit here and I kind of look at it, I'm like, please just let it die. Please just let the calendar die at this point. No one's buying it. But like for Postable, I don't get anything up front. But everything I submit to them, like anything that I submit that is a photo card is exclusive to them. Anything that is like a greeting card, like no photo aspect to it, not only can I license to them, I have the opportunity, I'm allowed to license it to other companies. So a lot of times though, it depends on like the contract you have. I know it definitely varies because some will do an advance up front and others will not do an advance. They'll just do royalties. One thing I'm seeing a lot of though, especially in like children's books, and this is not in like with the traditional publishers. This is not anything to do with traditional publishers. It's just anyone who's doing the self-publishing route, and they're trying to hire an illustrator. I see a lot of people saying, I can't pay up front, but like we'll split profits. And so if someone has like, if it's not like a company, don't go that route because you're going to do a lot of work and you're probably not going to make that money. But if you go through, like a company like Postable, I had a bunch of cards up front to send to them, but I also know that I've had a lot of really good luck with them, and they do a ton of advertising for their artists, and they're very supportive of their artists. So I don't mind doing upfront work for them because there's no obligation for me to do anything. Like I'm not required to send cards every season. I think I've sent a total of 5 this year. Penny says, yeah, it's a sketchy deal for a whole book. Yeah, I'm in a Facebook group, and I see it a lot, and it's unfortunate that it's making the rounds, but like I've had people try to pitch the profit sharing thing to me, and I'm like, I always like to just say like, I can't work for free. People die of exposure. Like you can't work for nothing. And, because I had one guy try to get into an argument with me over summer about it. And I was fishing with my dad. And he was like, you should be, if you should be passionate about the work that you take on, you should be passionate enough to believe in the author and the work that you're doing and be willing to do it for free. And I was like, I can also be passionate about the project and get money. So, needless to say, I blocked the man because I was ranting it to my dad, and he's like, 1, you're not going to work for this guy, so let it go. But 2, he's like, yeah, that's not how things work. Like you can't do something like that for no money. Especially because like a children's book, it's a lot of work. Illustration work in general, it's a lot of work. If I'm going to do work for free, it's going to be my own work. But in terms of like finding places to get licensing deals, there are a lot of different companies that you can submit your work for consideration. And if you already have a catalog essentially of work that is available to license, that's even better. So like what a lot of people will do is they'll have like art that they've made for different seasons that are all available to license, and they'll have them all on their website, listed as available. And they'll, pitch it to different companies, and the companies can choose whether or not they want to license that work out. And so it could be an exclusive license, which means only that company can use it. It could be a license where they have the opportunity to use it, but another company could use it too. Where is this at right now? Okay, we're getting close. It's a lot of there's a lot of different like nuances that can happen, but if you already have work that's available to license, that helps a lot. A lot of people will do like surface pattern design, and they'll come up with like a collection every season. And that collection will be what they get licensed out. But some of the companies that they're like companies that I would really like to license with, there's one in particular. It's called Gallison. I think it used to be called Gallison Mud Puppy. I don't think Mud Puppy exists anymore. But they do a lot of puzzles and things, and they're just really cute and really well done. You generally see a lot of their puzzles in stores like Barnes and Noble. Generally, if you've looked at puzzles, you have probably seen a Gallison brand puzzle. So if you're creating like work just for fun, if you're just doing experimental illustration work, you're just creating something because you think it'd be fun to create, keep that stuff aside and like have it ready to say, I have this. If you want, you can put it into a licensing deal. Cody says, I've recently created a whole portfolio for surface design, but I just don't know who to contact about it to try to get work. So there are licensing agents. I know that much. Who's on the licensing? I think Bright has a licensing division. So they could, they're one to look into. Lola Rogers does a make art that sells course, and she's also an art rep for licensing. I heard lately like they don't take submissions, and if she picks up an artist, it's someone that took her course. So I don't know how viable that one is. But I think Bright Agency has a licensing division. I think shoot, who else? I Jackie Winter Group, maybe. But if you search for licensing agents, that's definitely a way to go. Also look at Surtex, Surtex. That's another one that is for licensing, and they do a lot of surface pattern design and varying things. You could also reach out to somewhere like Joann Fabrics or a company, fabric company, in order to plug that work. Something like what I'm making now, something like this could be licensed to a company like Paper Source or something. If they make, if they license out for designs, that's one that can be done. All right, now I'm going to quickly do the lettering, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to make it like a cream color, because I don't want it to just be like a stark white, but it's like barely into the cream category here. So, but it'll be just enough that you can see that it's not like a stark white. I do know too, if you're active on Facebook, there are licensing groups on Facebook, and Cody, if you shoot me a message afterwards, I will pop on and see if I'm still in any of them or if I can remember what some of them are. I think one might be called Blueprint. That's unfortunate. I did notice a lot of that roster looks very much same. So that also, is something to watch out for. Like you want your work to fit within the roster aesthetically, like it looks like it's all part of a family, but you don't want to feel like you're competing with your roster. Leah says you can find lots of agents and agencies through LinkedIn. That's another great source. I wish I had more experience with licensing. I don't have a ton of it, unfortunately. You know, with the books I've done, I've done 5 books. And I think out of those, I think only, I gotta check, I think 3 out of the 5 I get royalties on once the advance earns out. Unfortunately, though, because of the contracts, I can't go into like details on that. But I do believe that I think 3 of them are, I have to check because I think the one that I'm finishing up this week, I'm not sure if that one is or not. But I do know at least 2 of them do have royalties. And with kids' books, I can't say like there are varying royalties. So they cover like reprints, if they translate it into another language, so like world rights, things like that, as well as like audiobooks and things. Also, if it like gets turned into like a TV show of some kind. Leah says also take a peek at children's book publishers too. Yeah, and there are some like Bright, I believe, that do have that do both. You know, and Bright's one of the ones that looks like it's a giant agency, but they have multiple agents that each handle their own artists. And it's the same with the agency I'm with, Cat. They have what looks like a large roster now, but there's also 4 different agents that all have their own artists. But like I know, like I've seen Cody's work and I love Cody's work, and I think that it's definitely worth checking into Bright for sure. There's what's her name? What is her name? What's her name? Forgot her name. There's Howarth. Her last name is Howarth. And she does a lot of licensing. And I cannot remember her first name. And I see her in my feed like every day. So if I will shoot that over when I get off of here, because her work is really fun and it's very much in the licensing category. You know, you can look at places like, reach out to like Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's does greeting cards, and they actually do licensing. So like they'd reached out to me a while back and they're like, hey, we're doing licensing, submit some cards for consideration. Unfortunately, they didn't take any of mine, but that's a lot of how they'll work. Seriously, Cody, they don't want you because they don't draw humans? For heaven's sakes. Honestly, being able to do animals is hard. That's a great skill to have. I honestly think animals are harder than humans. I recently did a book where the main character is a squirrel. And I went to go draw the squirrel and start planning out what the character looked like. And those first couple iterations, I look down and I just go, I am pretty sure I've never seen a squirrel in my life, because this just shows that obviously I've never looked at one before. But you also have like a really distinct marketable style. So I'm actually really surprised. Oh, I have a Cody, I can give you a contact for highlights. I do not have contacts for Scholastic, unfortunately. I know that they have I think they're based in Orlando or they have an office in Orlando. I know that much because I have friends that did work there, but I don't think I have any friends currently working there, so I wouldn't know who to reach out to. But I do know somebody who's at Highlights that I connected a friend with at one point. Said friend has yet to actually hire me to do anything for Highlights, but I digress. Um, wow, I can't. That's wild to me that they want you to be able to do humans more than anything. Um, look into Minted. They do, it's a lot more of like contests and stuff, but they have a children's division because you could do some really cute children's invites. Um, definitely look at like Joanne Fabrics and such. And then I'll rack my brain and see if I can think of others and I'll let you know because there is absolutely a market for your work somewhere. All right, it is, okay, we're at 41. I'm being cognizant of the time because last time I messed up and got cut off. So I want to do details on these. I'm not sure that we're gonna have time, so I'm just gonna quickly throw in, there I go, hitting the end key again. It is not, I have to tell myself, I don't have it activated in this Photoshop version. Let's see. Let's do this. This teal, like this pale teal blue is also a really nice one that you see in this kind of color palette. I'm not sure necessarily if it'll work or not because it might be a little too hard against this pink. In which case I can go and adjust the pink a little bit. But I do want to be able to show you guys how I would do a mock-up in this. And he says, so cute, Shauna. Thank you. I'm happy with how it's turning out. That's the thing, now that now my brain is in Christmas season, doing stuff for Christmas is much easier. Halloween, though, is my absolute go-to because that for me is the easiest one to draw, and I don't know why. I have not, though, set up I've got Christmas lights that I generally will hang behind me, and I've not done that yet. But it's not December 1st yet, so I have time. But because Thanksgiving happened so much like a week earlier this year, it's weird because I keep expecting it to be I keep expecting it to be like, I guess, closer to Christmas than it is. If that makes sense. Like last year, it just felt like all of a sudden we were just barreling towards Christmas. And this last week, I'm like, it doesn't even feel like Thanksgiving already happened, but it feels like we should be further along and actually in December already. Not that I'm complaining. I like having that time. Let's see if I can at least get details on one of these branches just so you can see what the plan is for that. Okay, so like that's kind of what will happen. I'm gonna adjust the pink real quick. We're gonna go more to a coral, so I'm gonna pull this more into the red. Yeah, okay, I like that. Now go a little light. If I go too light, we lose the blue. Oh, I kind of like that dark. So let's do a little adjustment on the blue dots. I double clicked on my layer so that I can get the layer styles up. I'm gonna go to color overlay, and then I'm gonna choose my color. I'm gonna pull up from the recent swatches, and I'm just gonna start pulling and seeing what colors I can use that may still work. maybe like a gold. Oh, actually, I kind of like this. I kind of like this olive color. We're going to run with this. So I'm going to hit save. I'm going to collapse my group here. And I'm going to pull this. Okay, so I have grouped my entire file together. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go to my mockup file and I have it set up. So how am I doing on time? I got 7 minutes. I can do this. Okay, so what I did initially to set this up is I selected the shape option and I dragged it from one corner to the other, and then I pulled it down to the bottom of the bag so I could get a rough idea of what the dimensions were. And then what I did from there is I right-clicked, I converted to Smart Object, and then I double-clicked on the layer to open the Smart Object. And then I opened I'm going to go to the image. I opened image size, so you can see it's about 8 by 6. So if I increase the width to 12, it puts it at about 9 by 12. So I'm going to change this so it is exactly 9 by 12. So what that does is make my shape much bigger. I'm going to hit save and close that. And you can see it made the shape here a whole lot larger. So now I need to, technically I don't need to size this one because you won't actually see this one. So what I'm going to do actually instead is we're going to call this place art here. And then I'm going to duplicate my layer. I'm going to put it in a folder. So I'm just going to nest it into a folder, and then the original one. So it's a copied smart object. So anything I do to the one smart object, it's going to do to the other smart object. So I'm going to take the fill, and I'm going to take the fill to 0 for the one that I'm putting the art into. The one that's in the group, I'm going to change the size, and we're going to just do some quick adjusting to it so that it is the right size for the bag. And if I were doing this for like a really pretty mock-up, which I did, what I did earlier was actually went and not only did I transform it, I chose this option up here, this warp option, so that I could adjust and kind of have a little more freedom with the shape itself of the smart object shape. But like I said, we're pressed for time, so I want to make sure we get through it. And what I do is I'm setting it to linear burn and taking the opacity back up to 100. So I'm going to close that group for now because I'm not touching anything in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on my place art here option. I'm going to go to my bag design, right click, I'm going to hit duplicate group, and I'm going to place it into rectangle11.psb. That's my smart object. You can see right now it's actually because this is going from a 450 DPI to a 350 DPI. I have to shrink it down just a little bit, but there it is in the actual smart object, and I'm going to hit save. And then I'm not going to close it out because I want to mess with it just a little bit in a moment. But we're going to look at our mock-up, and ta-da, there it is. And you can also take the opacity down of the file that's on the bag. You can take it down just a little bit so it feels like it's sitting a little more normally, like a little more naturally in the scene. But like what I need to do is do a little bit of adjustment here so that I can move just like that part. I'm going to hit warp because I'm going to have to do a little bit of adjusting here. But there's a lot that you can do with these. I'm going to add another. I went up here to this little split option, and I can add more options in terms of moving my smart object around, just so I get a little more control and freedom with it. So like I may need to add another like here. I'm gonna bring that up. I'm gonna add another like here. And I'm kind of adding them arbitrarily, but it's basically like you're kind of pen tooling a little bit. I'm gonna do one more here, and then that way I have a little control here to make that. So there's a couple spots that like if I were sending, if I were making a super serious mock-up, I would go and fix a little bit. But I mean, that does not look too bad. That looks pretty cool if you ask me. And then what I can do too is we can go in and we can select this area up here. So if I just pen tool this, again, this is gonna be messy. I'm not going for perfect here. I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna go make selection. There we go. It appeared on my other screen. I'm gonna hit OK. I'm gonna create a solid color adjustment layer. And I can change the color of this to whatever I want. So let's select this pink, and then we're just going to take it a little lighter. We're going to set the blend mode to linear burn. So it looks pretty legit for the most part. And then I'm going to do the same over here. Zoom in. And a lot of times too, if you are going to put anything on your website for licensing, putting examples of what it could look like and what it could be used on is actually really helpful because it helps clients see like, oh, this has potential to be this. But it also makes it look really cool because seeing it in use and seeing it in the environment and such like really does make a difference. And it's fun because then you also have things to like throw onto your, you can throw it on like your Instagram and such. I'm going to double click, copy my hex code, paste my hex code. We've got that. We've got our little Mary, gift bag and, things that I could do to like, if I post this on my Instagram, like I'd create a new layer. I would, kind of color select. And then what I'd do is I would make kind of some custom illustrations to go around it just to give it a little bit of character. I may, change the color, the background color, but just like little things to kind of add to the presentation of it. And it just makes it that, more fun. But yeah, ta-da. Cody says the blue dots remind me of juniper berries, very wintry. Yes, I really like the blue. I just couldn't get the right shade to work. So we have like different berries. I don't know what they are. There's some kind of berry. Oliver says this design is lovely. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone. I see a lot of cute and nice. Thanks. That makes me feel good. Managed to get it, pretty much get it banged out in an hour. But yeah, and things you can do and have some fun with again are just you can change up the color. So like you could if I do it, I'm gonna duplicate the shopping bag because I can choose to what does this convert to layers? Oh, okay, just converted it so it's embedded in there. So I'm gonna remove the background, which may or may not work because it's white on white. So I'm not sure how accurate it will be because sometimes, oh, it actually did pretty good. Okay, hang on. This actually may work. Okay. We're gonna do a solid color adjustment layer. I would have to clean this up a bit, but like I could, you could have this and then you could like fake a, you could fake a table that it's sitting on. Just kind of give it like something to ground it. You know, so there's things like that, things that make it kind of fun. That juniperish color would kind of work here. Ah, actually, it kind of does. Let's remove that. That actually kind of works. Let's run with it. But we're coming into like the last couple seconds, last couple moments. So I really want to thank y'all for joining me today because this has been a lot of fun. Cody says Christmas olives. Perfect. They're Christmas olives, and Cody has said it. I have said it, and that's what they're going to be. But I do really want to thank everyone for joining. This was a lot of fun. I'm really glad we got to, show from start to finish. I hope everything I said kind of made sense. And if you do have questions after the stream, like, you are welcome to reach out to me on Instagram, email, what have you. You can find me on social channels at Shauna Parmesan. And you can find me other places at shaunalynn.com. Make sure you stay tuned because we have office hours with Andrew and Nick up next. And I have a feeling it's going to be a good one because it always is with those two. And thank you again for joining me. Happy holidays. It was great to see you all. Bye.